Episode 5 of HBO's 30 Coins was titled The Double. The village is further undone by Mario's return, sending Paco on an urgent quest for answers. As Sandro and Santoro each appeal to Father Vergara's better nature, the hunt for the final coin puts Elena in greater danger than ever before. Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with my weekly recap, breakdown, and review of the latest episode of HBO's 30 Coins. We're talking episode 5, titled The Double, and we got some things to discuss about this episode in this spoiler review. But before we dive into it, as you can see on the screen now, make sure you all are following me on all my other social media accounts like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, which you can find all those links in the description below. If you are new to this channel, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing, and while you're at it, hit that notification bell. That way you can get the alert for when I drop new content. It would mean a lot to me if you all can like and share this review. It really helps out the channel, but I also appreciate all the support. And in the comments below, for all my 30 Coins fans out there, let me know what you all thought about episode 5, The Double. Let me know your pros, your cons, your thoughts, your theories for the weeks ahead, and let's have a great discussion about this latest episode of 30 Coins in the comments below. So before I get into the recap here, as I do every week, I give you all just my initial reactions off the episode. And I gotta say, episode 5, The Double, probably my least favorite episode of the season thus far. We're obviously going to talk about it here in this breakdown, but it just felt off. From the CGI, to the pacing of the episode, to just the lack of characteristics. Like, we haven't seen our characters act in this manner, and it felt like the characters just weren't themselves. It just felt like a, dare I say, I don't want to say throwaway episode, but it just didn't feel up to par of the previous 4. But again, there were some enjoyable moments, but overall, it was my least favorite episode of the season thus far. And we're going to get into it here in this recap. But let me know, are you guys in the same boat with me? Did you kind of feel like this episode was off, or was this your favorite episode of the season? Let me know in the comments. But let's get into this recap. Episode opens with young Manuel burying his dog, as we learned this last week, that he buried his dog and was responsible for his dog's death, and he lies about his whereabouts. And long story short, we end up finding out that this is a dream. This is all kind of made up. We find out that father has been taken, has been held captive in a prison cell, and again, this to me, when the episode just kind of felt like, did I miss something from last week's episode to this? Like, obviously we know how last week ended, but it just felt like there was like another scene that should have been placed in this moment versus this kind of flashback dreamlike sequence, and how the father got in this cell just kind of felt kind of abrupt and just kind of out of nowhere to me. Let me know what you all thought about the opening, which was much different from any other opening that we got in this season. But as we get into the meat and potatoes of the episode, we get the double, which we see Elena for the first time in 2 years. She gets the reunion to see her husband again. He doesn't want to talk to anyone. He just wants to talk to Elena. And as we see Elena picking him up from prison, they're smiling, they're happy. And we see the witch. We learned out that this creepy old woman was a witch, that she is looking at him and smiling. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But back to the little dream sequence, we see that Sandro is in the same dream with Manuel. I don't know how that worked. I don't know how they were able to share the same dream. That's really never explained. But we see that they run off from the little demon boy, and they go and hide in spot, and they exchange cards. We see the father gives him the card to let him know where he's at, which again, he was able to find that location very easy. Again, this episode just felt like it was going at a weird pace, and the show's about monsters and creatures and demons, but this episode, the logics of this episode to me just kind of felt a little bit off. We go into our first official sex scene of this season, as we see Elena having sex with her husband. But interestingly enough, this was a very weird three-way, because we see the witch is actually speaking on behalf of Mario and controlling his body. We all know that it wasn't the real Mario, and we'll talk about that reveal at the end, but very creepy moment there, because again, she's like feeling for him and speaking for him. Like I said, very weird three-way for our very first sex scene of this season. We learn that Jesus from the town hears the news that Mario is alive, and he's very shooken by this news, and we find out why a little bit later, but he's very freaked out to hear that Mario is alive, because he should not be alive. We cut back to Sandro. He's going to this museum. He comes across the Holy Spear, which if you have the possession of the spear, you have magical powers. You can control things. So, and that whole, again, this episode to me just felt so weird, and just the pacing of it all was just like very off-putting. We see that Sandro finds the father and they follow him into this conference room with a bunch of other priests, I assume, and they're wearing their white suits. And we see the party gets crashed by Sandro and all this stuff, and they take him in the back, and we'll get to that. Again, this episode felt like a mixture of National Treasure meets Da Vinci Code. And it just didn't play well to me in regards to, especially when we get later to that CGI creature-like thing. But we get Fabio talking to the priest before the party's actually crashed. He's talking to the priest, telling them that, Father Vergara has been risking his life to protect this coin. We're finally going to have it in our possession, just kind of hyping them up again. It was just... I knew as an audience member that Father Vergara was not going to be on their side, but again, they're just playing this heavy hand that he's switching sides, he's going to join the dark side. Very kind of just not my cup of tea, if I'm being honest. We see Mario telling Elena throughout the episode that he's back. He wants to start from scratch. And Elena's happy. I feel bad for Elena because she's, for the first time in 2 years, she's seeing her husband. She thinks it's really her husband. And he's telling her all these lies because, again, we know as an audience that this isn't really Mario in the flesh. We learn from Father Fabio about the gifts given to Jesus, and they were miracles and books, so you could do spells, and that explains why, his eminence and all his crew are able to do these like magical things, like appear in mirrors and do all the stuff that we gotten so far. And again, I don't know why he was showing him all that. Like, I know that was your friend from 20 years ago, but you let him into all these secrets so easily. It was just so weird that they just let Father Vergara just see all these treasures and just be like, oh, we convinced him to join us now. It was, like I said, just a weirdly paced episode. But cut back to Jesus, who has a gun now. He's looking to kill Mario. He actually shoots Paco. He ends up going to the house. No one's there, and it's revealed again that the woman's a witch, and we find out that Jesus killed Mario years ago. I guess he was out hunting, decided not to tell anyone, and buried Mario and got away from murder for 2 years, which very interesting there. We see the Gospels of Jesus, and they're not supposed to be let out to the public, and if people saw the true Gospels of Jesus, they would be ashamed, and all this stuff that we learned a couple weeks ago. And again, we see Father Vergara being offered the opportunity to join the dark side, which the show tries to play like he did, because as we cut to the next scene, we see that Sandro is held captive. He's like, no, there's no way you can be on their side, as we see Father Vergara punching him and all this stuff, and we see Fabio lift him in the air. Again, I wasn't the biggest fan of this episode. We see that they want him to kill Sandro and cut his throat. He doesn't. Father Vergara stabs Fabio in the stomach, gets away, and he's just shooting everyone like it's Rambo. I mean, he's killing priests left and right. And I'm like, geez, man, Father Vergara has no care for human life. But we see in the meanwhile, and I'm thinking to myself, what is Father Fabio going to do? He cast... I don't know why he didn't just put a spell on himself to just heal himself, whatever, but he puts a spell on this guard. And this, to me, is when the episode just kind of wasn't really my cup of tea. He puts a spell on this guard and transforms him to this creature-like spider, terrible CGI. I have been praising this show for the last 5 weeks or 4 weeks now of the visual effects, the pacing, the characters, the story, the world building, the character development. This episode, to me, it just didn't work for me. And it started from the very early on, just the pacing of the episode. But when you get to that CGI creature, it looked so bad. And then we're cutting in between Mario taking captive of Elena. They randomly kill a guy and steal his car and put gasoline in his mouth. Death by gasoline. Long story short, they take Elena to the dam. She doesn't know where the goddamn coin is in this water. And he's like, well, the coin's going to find you. It's going to speak to you, which it doesn't. We see Paco finds Elena. They kill the fake husband, the double, the witch body swapping scarecrow person. He falls in the river. Elena goes and finally buries her husband, and she's like, I'm going to leave, but only you, Paco, can keep me in town. And they're almost about to kiss, but then they get a call, and we'll talk about who they get a call from here in a bit. But as the episode wraps up, we see that Father Vergara is upset now because he killed this creature with the holy spear. I assume Sandro died in that exchange because I really didn't see where his body was. And I believe that Father Fabio's still alive. He said, we're going to see each other again. I'm like, okay. Anyway, the episode ends with a fish having the coin in its belly, and they show the coin being handed to Roque, and now he has it in his possession. He's in Paris with his friends, so I bet you that's going to bring you good luck. I've been saying it since we first met Roque that I think he was going to be like a bad guy, and we'll see what happens. But like I said, overall, this episode to me lacked just the entertaining aspect, the scare aspect, the character growth. They feel like they took some character, like the growth development kind of went back a couple steps for me personally. Father Vergara just didn't seem like herself. Elena, again, I know she was happy to be with her husband. I give them a pass because she was like living this. She was happy. She thought that was her real husband, but obviously that wasn't the case. Paco, to me, felt a little underwhelming in this episode and just felt like a generic character. It's just episode to me just felt like a throwaway episode. Again, I don't really know the purpose of this episode besides Father Vergara learning about the gospel and the spear and almost getting in cahoots with his eminence and his people, but that could have been done and handled last week, if I'm being honest, and it just felt off. And again, the witch. Who the hell is this witch? Why does she know of the coin? Is she a part of the eminence and his crew, or is she trying to get the coin in her possession? And we'll learn that maybe she was like, I don't know, she's going to be revealed to be, I don't know, Mary, Jesus' mom or something. I don't know what's her connections to Jesus and why she wants his coins. We'll see. Again, I wasn't the biggest fan of this episode, as you all can tell. I still love the show. Don't get me wrong, but this episode took a step back for me, and it's my least favorite episode of the season. But that's just my thoughts. I want to know what you all thought about the double. Your pros, your cons, your thoughts, your theories. Are you more on my side, or are you more on the side of you enjoyed this episode? Whatever it is, let's discuss it in the comments. As always, thank you all for watching this review. Make sure if you haven't already to like this video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comment section, and of course, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you don't miss any of my other 30 coins reviews, as well as other things that we do on this channel. Hope you all are staying safe. Hope you enjoyed this review, and we'll see you on the next video.